back to Colluvies at the Movies.
The one and only podcast.
Got Ethan, Patrick, and Vince back with another episode.
Guys?
I'm good. Doing good.
How's your guys' weekend? You guys had a good weekend? Well, I know how yours went. How did you go?
My weekend went great. I saw a little movie called The Batman.
Oh, I did too.
That's crazy because I saw it too.
I saw it too. It's crazy.
Well,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a major coincidence because that's actually the topic.
That's the
of
topic.
That's what.
That's crazy.
We're going to be going over the Batman, giving our thoughts on it.
And we're going to be at the movies, right? We were at the movies.
We were at the movies.
We're not at the TV show anymore. We're at the movies.
Nope. Yep. Okay. So let's just jump into a overview on the Batman.
Yeah.
It is a film directed by
Matt Reeves.
Director of 2 of the Planet of the Apes movies.
Mm-hmm.
Very good movies.
Yes, very good.
He also directed
Cloverfield, right? Yeah, he directed Cloverfield.
Oh, the first one or all of them?
Yeah, the first one.
Good, because the other ones suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
he's
a known director. He has a good catalog behind his name. And
stars Robert Pattinson
in the lead with Zoe Kravitz, as well as Colin
Catwoman.
Farrell, Paul Dano.
That's still so
still
weird to me.
shocking. That's Colin Farrell.
Okay, so let's go around and give our overall thoughts, just like right off the bat. So, for me, I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was solid.
Just good.
It was good. That's what I thought about it.
Okay.
I think a lot of people are saying it was the best Batman movie ever. I thought it was a really good movie, but I still have to think about it. I still have to process it, and I don't really like to I don't know, compare stuff too,
right,
especially
right.
like.
But you
this,
have takeaways from it. You have okay.
Yeah.
Patrick, your thoughts?
I thought it was a great movie. I thought that performances, the acting was great. I thought it was the best Batman we've seen on the movie on the big screen, because Christian Bale, he's a good Bruce Wayne, I'll say, but if
throat cancer,
just throat cancer is just not giving it for me. So I think Pattinson takes the cake on just Batman because he is pretty menacing in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then I thought for the most part it was great. I mean, I have I'll be honest, there isn't one Batman movie I feel like that I would have called amazing up to this point. I feel like this is probably the best live-action Batman movie we've seen. I thought it was, for the most part, really good. There were, as with any movie, there was some stuff that I would change, but I thought for the most part it was a really good time, and I liked it a lot.
I think what's important about this one is just the atmosphere, right? It's so thick when you get into the movie theater. The atmosphere is just amazing. Just Gotham is like the coolest Gotham we have. It's like a character, right? So anytime when you have a movie that like Gotham, where like the place is just like so thick with personality, is just you're in for a good
That's
ride.
how you want to do Batman.
That's how you want to do Batman, because in the other movies it's just like big city, New York, Chicago. But in this one, it's Gotham. You know it's Gotham.
Well, I feel like the Burton movies, Batman '89 and Batman Returns, that was the one thing that I feel like that those movies really got right.
True.
The sort of dark Gothic atmosphere that I feel like we kind of lost in the Nolan trilogy.
Yes.
You could pretty much replace it with any major city in America.
Yeah. I think it's taking like the best things about all the Batman movies, and then putting them together, and also putting a bunch of brand new stuff onto it.
Well, I think the first thing that I noticed when I was watching the movie was how different it felt, pretty much in every aspect of what we've come to see in a Batman movie.
And even just superhero movies in general.
Yeah, and superhero movie in general. Like, I feel like some people online are like complaining that it was like, there's no jokes in this movie, and I was like, "Are you serious? Like, not everything can be
jokes
too. There can't be a Scooby-Doo reference in the Batman.
Yeah, for me personally, the quippy Marvel dialogue has gotten just so old where I'm kind of tired of it by this point.
And there's a time and a place.
Yeah. Okay, if you do Marvel movies, but maybe DC can have their own identity, and especially in a dark Batman movie like this, and they do crack a few like really funny jokes,
Mhm.
and it can be different. The comedy doesn't have to be the same comedy that we've seen in other movies. I mean, that was so funny. When Penguin goes, when he's talking to.
This is spoiler review, by the way.
This is spoiler-filled review.
This is
Sorry
probably
about that.
spoiler-filled.
This
So
was a
just
pretty good
warning.
joke.
Yeah, we're not gonna. Yeah.
Where Gordon and Batman are like interrogating him, and he's like, "What is this? Good cop, batshit cop?" Like that was so good.
Yeah, Penguin is really funny throughout this.
And I
movie.
feel like
that's awesome.
a lot of the humor like comes out of like just like the sheer like darkness too. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the Riddler's like clues and stuff, like the whole thing with the thumb drive.
Oh,
I
that
mean,
was
that
like,
was
it's
great.
super dark and super
So yeah,
twisted,
it's like
but,
dark comedy, but like that was funny.
Mhm.
So yeah, I did like that aspect of it. That this movie didn't have to feel like some DC movies like Justice League tried to do the Marvel thing and it just failed tremendously.
So,
like
yeah.
let
Original-
DC
Original Justice League, yikes. Yeah.
just let DC make up their own stuff,
Right.
make up their own style.
And, like, so I'll say this, like, the tone felt very right throughout the
Yeah.
movie. Like, it felt like it never strayed away, really, in any scenes. And I think that's a major positive of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we should now get into sort of the pacing of the movie. And, like, it's obviously a slower movie.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a slow burn.
3 hours long.
Uh-huh.
3 hours.
So,
What do you guys
what did
feel
you guys
about-
think? Yeah, what do you
That's-
think about the length? What do you...
Okay, here, the pacing. Here's like my one complaint about the movie, right? Is the pacing? It's pretty good most of the time. It's just when we're talking about the rat. We have to find the rat, the whole La Ratatata or whatever it's called, right? And they had to find it, but then there was like it was kind of confusing at the one part where it was like, well, when what's his name is about to be what is it? Falcone. When
Maroni?
Falcone.
Or no, not Maroni. Yeah, Falcone.
When Falcone is supposed to be like putting the light or whatever, there's like a back and forth that was so confusing. It was like, you're working for them and they're working for you, and it was like, and then the pacing was a little off, I guess, on that.
Yeah,
That was like my only complaint.
The only area, and we'll get more into this at the end of the podcast episode, but I felt like it kind of lost me in the last sort of 10-15 minutes of it as far as the pacing goes. I felt like the ending was a little like like I don't even know how to describe it. Like it was all like kind of mixed up and there was a lot going on. So I feel like besides that, it was very effective at like getting to that slow burn, building up anticipation and like tension, and then paying it off.
Well, there's really two
Yeah.
endings in this movie, right? There's
Well,
the Riddler's plan, and then there's the the fall of Falcone. So you get those two endings.
Well, I just feel like, the whole entire movie is about the investigation, and then you figure out the clues, and then, like, all of the tension, I guess, the way up until that point took a drop, so...
Well,
the
yeah, it
interest-
ends pretty much at the coffee bar scene when the Riddler
Yeah.
turns himself in, and after that you pretty much just have your standard third act of just everything going wrong, and
that's the one complaint everybody has about superhero movies. It's just because like the third act is always got to be that one laser in the sky or
Big CGI.
army
It wasn't a big
or
CGI battle. That's a positive.
but like I feel like, and this goes into I guess more characters and the character of the Riddler, and I feel like that's the only part where it like faults really is in the intentions, because it does this thing that a lot of Marvel movies have done where they have this villain that's trying to bring about change, and like the people he's killing are not good people, right? They're people that are corrupt, but it's like the Killmonger thing where like you start to like agree with him, you start to see where he's coming from, so then they have to make him do something drastic, like in the end just like flood Gotham. So it's like it gets kind of ridiculous.
So
and kinda
that's a good
true.
point.
Wasn't he trying to save the city, but then he just ends up flooding it?
Right, he was trying to get rid of the filth, and then he ends up just trying to destroy it all. But
yeah, so I guess that I just realized that.
Yeah, that kind of didn't make any sense, especially with the people. But then he had like the big, like elaborate plan of like trapping like the new mayor and the thing and stuff. And
so
But
so there
wasn't
were
this-
parts that
But this new mayor was
seemed
supposed to be
connected.
good, though, right? But he
Yeah,
just
but he
saw it
said-
as corrupt,
remember
and
he said-
Falcone's
yeah.
running it, and that.
Yeah, I mean, it only really works if you give it the benefit of the doubt of like the Riddler doing this kind of Noah's Ark type thing where he wants to like start again or like rebuild Gotham from the ground
also,
up.
I think in the scene where he's talking to Batman, I think it's revealed that like his overall goal isn't really to like, oh, we need to change Gotham. It's just like he wants to be noticed, and he's been an outcast.
He wants,
all his
he
life.
wants.
That's
fame.
really what his goal was. So it makes sense that like that he wouldn't like I don't know like want to actually do this like elaborate plan to like change Gotham. I don't think that was really his intention. I think his intention was just to do something crazy so people will remember him, and that's what he always said. So that does kind of make sense of why he would do something big like that.
And he clearly has like a big ego with like his following on social media and all that kind of stuff.
It also like I think he's just trying to. Honestly, I think he's come to the realization, just like Catwoman has at the end of the movie, how there's just going to be another power grab and then it's going to go all corrupt again. And I think he has that realization, and maybe he like just wants to destroy it because it's so corrupt and there's no changing that. So that might be why. Also, there's also a lot of I guess that's not due to the pacing, but there's a lot of parallels to other movies. Like, I was watching this, and I was like, I don't know what DC has, but they like Taxi Driver, I feel like, right?
They love their classic cinema. I mean,
they love Joker. Joker is actually pretty similar to this with, like, how much filth is around it. And it is, like, I guess Riddler is kind of similar to that, where he just wants to clean out the filth or whatever, like a Taxi Driver. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, but in this movie...
Yeah, and then it had the whole, narration.
Oh, narration.
And shitty city.
Yeah.
And you could draw so many comparisons to Seven, Zodiac.
Yeah.
Even Saw, in the direction where some of the riddles go.
And people, I don't understand. People were saying like, oh, it's exactly like Seven, and I'm like,
but
it's
not
really
not
kind of.
really.
It draws off of all those movies. I mean, you could say the same thing about Zodiac. Like, I felt like that was kind of a dumb criticism.
What was Zodiac supposed to do? Like, change history? Like,
it was. I thought that was kind of dumb.
I think drawing off of other movies is fine. Like, I don't see that problem with that.
Yeah,
as long as
especially
you give it,
your
when you
draw
aesthetic and your own story.
When you draw off of multiple too,
so
instead of just like
sort of
one
a culmination
movie.
of all these styles, which I feel like
that's where I think Joker failed because I feel like Joker was literally like a direct ripoff.
Just felt like Taxi Driver.
It was Taxi Driver, but also the king of comedy. I mean, literally a direct ripoff of that.
Yeah,
so, like this movie was not that. It had, like Patrick said, like. There was definitely elements of Taxi Driver in here, Seven, Zodiac, and then it felt like Batman. Like it was a great Batman.
A lot
movie.
of crime noir stuff thrown in there.
And I felt like talking about the story. I have to mention this because I was talking about this to Patrick on the drive home, just because of the best thing about this movie is the opening and Batman's first appearance. That was the coolest part of the movie. So that shot with Riddler in the shadows or when the TV changes, that was super cool.
It was really cool. Also, when he's in the shadows behind him, that's super cool.
And the way that that opening, the Riddler and Batman parallel themselves.
Yeah.
They're both lurking in the shadows. I thought that was a really interesting way to get.
Yeah, that was a cool.
What most people were thinking when it first opened up was we're getting the origin story, and you saw the father, and then there's the son.
That was cool.
And I felt like, this is the origin story, but then it was
and then it was just the Riddler murdering.
Hey, Last Jedi, Rian Johnson, listen to this. That's a good way of how to subvert an audience's expectation. That's the proper way to do it. That's cool.
Expectations.
What do you think? You subvert them in the bad way, where you're like, oh, we're seriously going to get another origin story? And then you have this great tie-in with Riddler, and then you get the payoff when Batman sees the kid.
And,
true.
And he sees himself
remembers
as a kid.
He sees himself in that moment. So,
but yeah, it really did a good job in the opening of showing how much fear Batman brings to Gotham. all these criminals and he's not even there, but they're just like terrified
Yeah.
whenever that
Well,
signal
that's the
comes
huge
out.
change, right? You get that first scene where he's just beating up these guys relentlessly, and like that civilian's like, "Don't hurt me," and then at the very end of the movie, we get he's like this beacon of hope, and we get like this change, which is different from all the other Batman movies. Cause
Well, Dark Knight kind of did the same thing,
But
at
he did
the
it with
end,
Harvey-
but it did it in a different way.
Harvey Dent, right?
Yeah.
Because
I'll be everything Gotham needs me to be.
Yeah. And then he's like the worst person in it, and then they put all the hope into Harvey Dent.
Mhm.
So you
Right.
get like this new symbol of hope in Batman, which is like pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, I want to talk about the first thing because that was so cool. Like the music is really good in this one. I'm
I
going to
think
talk
it's my
about the
favorite
score.
Batman score.
This
It's
is a
pretty
really
good.
good
It's
score.
it's so
a-
simple, but it's so effective. Like
because just that main theme alone,
Uh-huh.
like it's
Yeah.
like 2 notes, and,
Yeah.
and just every time it's just
It's like,
I mean,
whoa,
I
this is pretty
got
cool.
so much chills in that opening scene. Like that was so cool when
Yeah, Goosebumps were awesome.
he's just like, they said they think I'm in the shadows. I am the shadows, and
And
they're
even
just like,
like-
the villains are just like, and they're just like running away and they're looking at the shadows. Like that was so cool.
yeah,
The
and
score
even
was
like
going-
when it just opens on the theme, and like the very first part of the movie is just the title card saying the Batman.
Batman.
And
Yeah,
it's just
and
that theme, and it just immediately sets
Yeah,
the mood.
it
I
was
feel
so
like.
cool. That was really cool.
And then Riddler's like weird, like it's like the bloop, 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 bloop. I don't know what that was, but that was cool too.
So then I guess we can also get into the cinematography coming off of
Yeah.
that, which is pretty excellent, I'd
Oh,
say,
yeah.
all
Yes,
throughout the movie.
I'd say the cinematography is huge. So we got like that Matt Reeves classic, ending. With the there's red all throughout the movie, but we get
There's
the
red.
flare.
Mm,
Oh,
I feel like
yeah.
yes.
there's always flares in Planet of
You
the
gotta
Apes.
have-
Yeah,
you
there's
gotta
a
have
lot
the
of
flares. You
flares.
gotta
I
have
just
the
realized
flares.
that there was a lot of flares.
And then one shot that I feel like specifically stood out to me was at the end of the car chase with the penguin,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
upside down Batman with
that
the
was
theme.
so
I'm
cool.
sad.
Yeah.
I'm sad that they put like that in the trailer though.
That's true. See, that would have like been such an amazing
Yeah, 'cause
scene
that
to
would have
see
been-
the first time.
Yeah, that was a pretty good trailer, though. I mean, this is what's good about this movie is when you get a good director like Matt Reeves, you can have, and he hires, a good DP, but you can have all these, like, creative, unique shots,
Mhm.
And that's
And-
what, this is the advantage of not being a Marvel movie. I mean, like, most Marvel movies don't
They're
really...
shot the
it
same,
looks
pretty
plain.
much.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's so
and
generic. Like,
And you get a director like Matt Reeves, who is very commercially successful, who's made
Mhm.
big blockbusters, but also has like his own signature style
Mhm.
that adds a lot of flavor to, I
Yeah.
feel like, the
So
directing of this
that's
movie.
what DC is excelling at, right?
Yeah.
They're just saying, "Hey, you can do this, directors. We just want money." So, and then Marvel on the other hand is like, you gotta have it like this, and you gotta do this, and you gotta be
'Cause
big
they've-
CGI
yeah.
battle, and it's gotta be nice. So hopefully, Sam Raimi will
Yeah.
have a little-
Right.
now,
And
if
we're talking about Marvel,
I know we're talking about Marvel. It's just like if Marvel does not like give Sam Raimi like full reins on the new Doctor Strange movie to do like whatever Sam Raimi wants, that'll be a sign maybe that DC
Well,
is
DC
having an
is
advantage.
Well, and that's the
over
thing,
Marvel.
because Marvel has had its formula that has worked for so long that they've almost become confined to it, whereas
Yeah.
DC, they haven't really had a formula from the beginning. They've just
Yeah.
been
They've-
throwing
moved,
you know, and
anything
they've
at the
tried.
wall.
They've exactly. That's the good thing and the bad thing about DC.
It's a mess, but
but we get
there's
some
bound to be like
jewels.
some gold,
Yeah.
that comes out of it.
But
at the end.
exactly, there's more opportunity available. So
Uh-huh.
if DC can capitalize on this opportunity, then I think it's going to be very successful. But
I
hopefully they
agree.
will.
So
but-
great cinematography, great score.
Yeah.
Now let's go into the performances,
Performances.
which I think
and characters. I think we should talk about the characters.
performances
Yeah.
and characters, and I feel like for nearly every performance here, I was just like
Yeah.
super engaged.
Yes,
with.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
I mean, Robert Pattinson, I feel like is probably the best live-action Batman we've
Mhm.
seen. I feel like
Yes.
he nails the Batman
Yeah.
character,
This
and
is what I'll say about he embodies Batman, right? In the whole movie, he
Mhm.
plays Batman so well, where it's like he is Batman, right? The mask
He's
is
Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne is
And
the
y-
mask,
and
and
you
you
can-
don't even see that really
Well, and
because
yeah,
he's barely Bruce
you
Wayne.
can see he hasn't
Yeah.
really learned how to become like the playboy Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Yet. You know, he's still trying to, which I imagine we'll see more of in sequels to this movie.
or
But
something like that where he's trying to hide it more. But I also really like that. Like Matt Reeves did a lot in this movie of the show don't tell, and I mean like. Even Robert Pattinson doesn't really speak much in this movie, but he conveys so much emotion in just by his looks. Like the whole entire funeral scene, he doesn't talk.
no,
at
but just
all.
the-
Oh,
but
yeah, that was
just-
great.
But just like the way that he's looking at the kid,
and
too.
he's looking at the
and-
kid, and he feels that emotion. You can sense that. And when the guy is talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, I hate these rich people," right? And he's like leaning over, and he just like awkwardly like just moves the other way. I thought that was cool. Because
Yeah, when I feel he's uncomfortable as like Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he's not used to that environment.
And he's just like an observer, and he doesn't
Mhm.
really talk that much. And you know, he gets this talk with Falcone or whatever, and that he's kind of Batman in that moment when he's talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So-
because you can tell he hates being like this rich guy. I mean, like every time because like when Catwoman was saying like, "Oh, I hate all these white privilege, all the
Right.
rich boys or whatever," and then he's just
and
like
it's
in this moment
just
like,
him,
"Oh,
yeah.
okay,
And-
well."
it
this
feels
kinda
like
sucks."
those scenes where like he was looking through Catwoman's eyes.
Mhm.
That's what it feels like. That he's just inhabited this rich person's body, and he's just
Yeah.
looking through their eyes, like
Yeah.
in his lair.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah, that's good. And also to add, like I was gonna say when Riddler is like talking about how it's his orphan, and as how he was an orphan, and how Bruce Wayne was an orphan, and how Bruce Wayne, he got the world handed to him on a plate or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's just like,
Yeah, he's like, "This is what a real orphan is," and that's
and then
exactly.
he gets that.
That
And
was
then
good
that
parallel.
segues into
Parallel.
Paul Dano as the Riddler, who once
Mhm.
again I think does a good. I mean,
He does
we,
a good
we,
job,
we
yeah.
never really expected Paul Dano
Yeah.
to fail as the Riddler.
Yeah.
After seeing him in There Will Be Blood, seeing him in
It is-
Prisoners, it's
Yeah,
like
he's a
this
great
was almost.
actor, obviously.
But I will say
Yeah.
that I wish we got to see more of like Paul Dano in this movie,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Yeah.
because for the most time he's wearing the mask. But by far my favorite scene with him was the sort of interrogation scene where he's just absolutely losing it, like screaming
Mhm.
at Batman by the end of it, and it reminded me a lot of the There Will Be Blood,
Yeah, yeah.
scene.
Yeah,
where he's-
it totally reminded me.
yeah,
Yeah,
where he's
yeah.
like-
Screaming in the chapel.
Or he's just like basically giving up all hope, and he's like, no, that's not true. And he's like, yep.
yeah, and he's just having a
That's how life
breakdown.
goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was exactly how it went. Because Batman's like, no, you're not gonna be famous. He's
Yeah,
like,
I'm
no,
not anything
no,
like
no,
you, yeah.
no. He's
And
like,
it
I
was
will be
just
famous.
Hilarious. Zoe Kravitz, amazing Catwoman.
Amazing
Dude,
Catwoman.
she completely embodies
She was
the
really
role.
good.
Yeah. It's like everything was like perfect. Like the movement.
Yeah, exactly
was
what I
perfect.
had envisioned for Catwoman.
Mhm.
It felt like it was
It was just
spot
really-
on.
yeah.
And then
The
Col-
dynamic.
yeah.
But too, when they
Uh,
stand on like the
100%.
rooftop, it's always like, oh yeah, this is
the
what
bat and the cat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is good. Like Anne Hathaway was like.
and Hathaway.
And Hathaway
Yeah.
was thrown in there. I don't
Yeah.
even
I don't
remember
know.
her
Like
at
I
all.
like Anne Hathaway as an actor too, but I think that she was just kind of like shoved in that role, and it wasn't like really like. It didn't feel like Catwoman, but this one.
And
This one was like a mellowed down Michelle Pfeiffer, right?
Yeah,
and I
it
really,
wasn't
and I really,
completely over the
and I
top,
like
like
Michelle
Michelle
Pfeiffer,
Pfeiffer.
but she was very over the top in that role.
and she's probably always going to be the best Catwoman, but,
Yeah, but,
Zoe
like-
Kravitz did a really good job as being
of just being more
like,
subtle and
yeah.
like
Yeah.
the character. Yeah, and then
Is a better character.
speaking of like, I guess going off of not subtle, we have to talk about Colin Farrell. As the
Okay,
Penguin.
yeah. I don't know where this came from. I don't know. I still don't see it. I will never see it. I don't
It's
see
like-
his voice. I don't see him. I don't know what's going
I
on.
did hear him.
I didn't hear him.
It was the first. It was like the first time he started talking. I heard his voice.
When he goes, what does he say?
I don't-
What does he say when he's in the club? He goes like, "Hey, gorgeous," or something to
No,
Batman.
take it easy,
Take it
sweetheart.
easy.
That was-
Like the thing is,
that was
there are
good.
so many actors closer to what the Penguin is like than Matt Reeves could have chosen.
Yeah,
But this
Instead,
is
they just have
perfect.
Colin Farrell with all these prosthetics doing a ridiculous accent, and it works.
It
It 100%
really
I don't-
works.
works.
yeah,
I don't know
I don't-
what he saw.
I don't
in
know. Yeah,
Colin
exactly.
Farrell.
What he saw, like, I don't know
Why
who
that
said,
was his
You know, it'd be a
choice.
good Penguin, Colin Farrell. Like, I
Colin
don't-
Farrell with a bunch of
Yeah, with a
prosthetics
bunch.
and doing an accent.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, that was crazy.
But
But he was so good.
He
was
steals the
good.
show every time he's on
Yeah.
the screen. So
It was a good
And
decision.
you can see the setup at the end where he's looking over Gotham, where it's like, oh, it's his domain now,
Mhm.
and I can't wait for the sequels. So
Yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
they do some of
And
that.
also, I have to mention this because I feel like most Batman movies don't get this right, and that's why. So, I love how Gotham is just like this cesspool of villains, and one of the biggest disadvantages of a Batman movie is like you can only really do one villain per movie. So it's like, we got the Joker in this movie, then
so
we
it's
got
not
the
as
Scarecrow.
accurate to like the
So
comics.
it's not really accurate in the fact that like there's always something going on in Gotham. Like Penguin is gonna be
at the
controlling
same time,
the
too,
criminal
like-
underworld, while like Two-Face is robbing a bank on
They were
this one
saying-
street. So
apparently
that's
I
why.
was-
That's why Batman is more successful in like a show format because they can do that.
Because
But this movie, what it did a good job of having that like criminal underworld things while also getting the nut job
Right, we
with
also get
the Riddler and
Riddler,
stuff.
Apparently there was also like I saw like this video that was saying like there was a bunch of other villains, but in like that Halloween scene where it was like Halloween night, but they were like in the background.
Oh.
Apparently there was like a bunch of like
Oh, that's
like,
cool.
cameos and villains that were in there.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
And then also Jeffrey Wright, great Commissioner
I
Gordon.
thought honestly
Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright was really good.
Yeah.
really good.
You
Commissioner
don't need a
Gordon.
Robin in this movie. He's he's
Yeah.
his partner, right?
Mhm.
I mean, 100%. I wish.
And I
we-
love the dynamic of like how Jeffrey Wright's be like the cop that you can like root for and just be like, yes,
And
there's
he's like
good
the only
cops.
one
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
department that's
And
not crooked.
it's
that's-
so heartbreaking when you see like especially that club scene of like all when he's scanning all the people. It's like
Yeah.
cop, DA, Department of Justice.
I
It's
know,
like, oh my gosh,
and it's
everybody's
just
corrupt.
Brutal.
But
Yeah.
he's just like this shining light in that. So
Mhm.
I did like that.
And then I wish we would have gotten more of Andy Serkis as Alfred.
Alfred, yeah,
I
so
felt like
like
he
there
did a
was
good
none.
job.
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
I like
Alfred
the
can
dynamic.
survive a point blank
Yeah,
explosion in the
point-blank
face.
explosion.
That's the
There's
other
a lot
thing.
of point-blank
There's
explosions.
a
Yeah,
lot
and then
of
a
things.
bomb collar. He can survive.
Dude,
the
that.
bomb collar
chiseled
that-
chin. He's got
Yeah,
it.
I know,
He has
not a
chiseled
scratch.
chin.
He's got
Not a
he's got a big
scratch.
boy chin. He's
So
he's
that
got
was hilarious.
He's got some good bone structure. It's
Yeah.
just-
and these are more like minor problems with it that like don't really affect the scoring or anything of the movie, but it is just kind of fun to point out.
yeah.
And then I guess we'll get more into the ending, and this is where I'm actually gonna have probably the biggest issue with the film. Is it felt very much to me like Endgame's ending, where you have all these scenes that could be the ending for the movie, but instead of like choosing one,
That's like
Return of the King
Return of
problem.
the King.
they're all thrown
Yeah.
in to the movie. So you have the scene where
Yes.
he's lifting the flare, and then he looks up at the city, and he's like,
Yeah.
got all this mass.
I thought it was gonna be
and he's
end
like, I
there,
need
yeah.
to
Yeah, I was
stand
like,
for
okay,
hope.
that's a good
right?
end. And I was
Great
like,
end.
oh,
and then it's
Catwoman
him
and
and
Batman,
Catwoman,
yeah.
and they realize that they need to depart, and I'm like, oh, well, that's a nice ending. Then you
Then-
get the Riddler with the Joker cameo,
Yeah.
and it's like,
That's
that's
like,
a interesting way. Then you get Batman and Catwoman departing again.
Yeah.
The bikes this time.
And the bikes,
And then-
so-
maybe they're going separate ways.
So I feel like it was a little on the nose there, and probably a little more than it needed to. I felt like, honestly, the Riddler and the Joker scene could have been cut all together. Or
I don't like that.
If
I
they
don't
did-
like that
I don't like
too.
that. Or if you needed to, you could just put that as a post-credit
Yeah.
scene, because that's what it
so,
felt like. It
so they
didn't feel-
they just succeeded at doing a great villain that wasn't two great villains, three great villains if you could count Falcone, that weren't the Joker. And then they shoved the Joker there. We've had too much Joker.
We've had a
Like,
lot of
We're
Joker.
Jokered out.
We did not
Okay?
need it in this movie.
Joker
at
is
all.
a great
100
villain,
we,
but-
like, I mean, it's a great villain, and it's done great twice. I'd say Mark Hamill did it justice, and of course,
Heath
Ledger,
Ledger.
yes.
Heath Ledger. I can't.
Ledger.
Heath Ledger, yeah.
Heath Ledger did it amazingly, of course.
Yeah, so I feel like it
So,
kind of
yeah.
didn't have the strongest finish, but overall, I think this was still an amazing Batman movie.
Mhm.
I'm very glad that we got this movie
Yeah.
and that it was as good as it was. So
Mhm.
I guess we'll go to the
Final
scoring.
thoughts and scores.
What
Well,
are-
so
okay.
I wanted to talk about what's his name real quick because I had one more thing to say about Alfred. Alfred has a butler. Alfred is like
Oh, that
Alfred,
was.
that
I
is
felt like that
funny.
was
is
kind
like
of dumb.
Alfred is like the one is like helping them, and he's like one of the main people that is coming up all
Yeah.
this stuff. And so I just wanted to say Alfred has a butler. Like he's
Alfred-
not
Alfred-
like
he's past that. He's past
he's,
that.
he's like
He's like what was her name? He was like, can I have some tea, Doris? And I was like,
It's like,
whoa,
I was like,
okay, I guess.
yeah. So
Alfred's,
Alfred's like bossing everybody
hooked up
around,
now.
and he
He kind of inherited the mansion. He's like the Bruce Wayne of the
Yeah.
story.
yeah, he's pretty much acting
like-
as a Wayne in this movie.
He literally like
so.
trains them. He says, and like he basically does all this stuff. Oh, and I also want to talk about the I thought it was funny the squirrel suit. The
Oh, the
suit.
parachute.
Oh, yeah. yeah.
I had the camera.
I thought it was
the-
funny. I thought it was really.
I
I
thought
thought
it
it was
was
really
funny.
clever because it's like, oh, his second year, and he obviously hasn't developed.
Yeah,
the
I
tech
bet we're
for
gonna
the
get
suit.
the. I bet we're
He
gonna get
just,
the
like,
glide at some point.
Yeah.
but
He
that
just
was,
gets wrecked because his
that-
parachute
that
gets
was
stuck
pretty-
under
yeah.
this bridge, and he
That was
just
pretty good.
wrecks his back.
Yeah, that was really funny.
So there,
So-
there is, and he's terrified of that part when he goes up. So I thought that was cool. He says, "Oh, I thought
yeah,
I-
he's afraid of heights.
afraid
and
of
all that,
heights.
Yeah. All right, so.
we can go on scores now." Just had to point that out.
Okay, on to final scores. Vince, what are you giving the Batman?
You know, on discussion of it, I think I had it at an 8.5, but I'm gonna move it up to 9.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it
all
a
right.
solid 9 out of 10.
I'm gonna have it at 9.5. I've had it at 9.5 since I watched it, and I think it's gonna stay that way.
All right, and I have it as a solid 9. So.
So sorry if I accidentally interrupted anything.
Why
What are you doing,
doing?
Lance?
Did I?
Yeah.
Why you
A little
made it
bit.
so much?
A little bit.
Okay, let's redo reviews, or you can just
Okay.
say yours.
Yeah, and so I also scored it as a 9 on the mark. So, yeah, very good movie. Absolutely go check it out. And we will see you next time on
the next
Colluvies
episode of
at the
Colluvies at the
Movies.
Movies.
All right, we almost got through it, guys. All right, we'll see you.